good shortbread cookie is rich and delicate and absolutely melts in your mouth after the first bite. That's probably why it's been so popular for hundreds of years. I started off by showing you a basic vanilla bean spritz shortbread cookie. And with those fundamentals covered, we advanced up a level to a Scottish pan shortbread. And now you're ready to take on the ultimate challenge, individual chocolate raspberry Napoleons. This is a plated dessert that actually uses shortbread within it. So let's start with that shortbread recipe, the chocolate shortbread. Like all shortbreads, it starts with the butter. I've got half a cup of unsalted butter at room temperature. And I'm switching up the sugars a little bit. First, I'll sift a quarter cup of icing sugar. I'll add that to the butter. Another quarter cup, this time of granulated sugar. And the granulated sugar is that friction that's going to aerate that butter-sugar combination as I beat it again for a good couple of minutes until it's light and fluffy. And just like all of the cookies in the shortbread family, it's impossible to overbeat the butter-sugar combination. More is always better. Now for the dry ingredients. 3/4 of a cup of all-purpose flour, a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and this time, to keep the dough delicate and tender, cocoa powder, 2 tablespoons. Start on low speed and mix until the dough comes together. You can see right now that this dough is earning its shortbread name. It's still quite crumbly, or short as it used to be called. But another minute on a lower speed and it'll come together. You could make a chocolate version of a spritz cookie if you wanted with this style of dough. But of course, I want to roll and cut out these cookies, and it's too soft to do that now, so I have to let it chill. Unbaked shortbread dough freezes beautifully, so if you're trying to get ahead on some baking, to make your doughs to this point and pop them in the freezer takes up very little space. Now the dough has to chill for at least an hour before it's time to roll. I have a batch of dough that has already chilled for an hour, and you can see it is quite firm. That's that high proportion of butter at work in a good shortbread. Just soften this dough slightly, just by kneading it a little bit. It'll make it easier to roll without cracking. And you can feel it under your hand when it becomes a little more pliable, that it will be easy to roll. And with just a touch of flour on your work surface, you can start rolling. When rolling a delicate dough like a shortbread dough, I like to keep it moving, rotate it, and roll a little. That way I know it's not sticking to my work surface. So I want to roll out this dough as thinly as possible, almost 1/8 of an inch thick. There we go. My parchment-lined baking tray. And I'm using a 2.5 inch flower shape cutter. You can use a 2.5 inch plain round or fluted cutter. One of the real pluses to shortbread cutout cookies is because they don't have egg or leavening, they don't move when they bake. So you can arrange them quite closely together on the baking tray, and they hold that perfect cookie cutter shape. Another plus to shortbread dough is it re-rolls easily, so I can do that for my last few cutouts. The cookies are ready for the oven, and consistent with the other shortbread recipes, a low temperature oven, 325, and these take 13 to 15 minutes. Because they're chocolate, you can't use browning as a guide. So what I do is I lift them up, and if it lifts easily without bending, you know they're beautifully done. I have a batch of cookies that have baked and cooled completely, so now I can assemble the Napoleons. A Napoleon simply refers to any dessert that's stacked in layers. So I'm going to use 3 cookies for each dessert and fill it with sweetened whipped cream and some fresh raspberries. So I've got 2/3 of a cup of whipped cream, just lightly whipped, and I'll add granulated sugar. It really is just to taste. And I also like to add a splash of vanilla, and that transforms regular whipped cream to a chantilly cream. Just that addition of vanilla. Assemble right on your dessert plate. First, one of the cookies. Pipe a little whipped cream just in the center. Then, arrange the raspberries just so they rest against the whipped cream. That way, they'll stay in place. 3 on this layer. And then you want to see the whipped cream just come a little bit above the raspberry, and that's what will hold the second cookie. Repeat with a bit more of the whipped cream. Alternate the spots where you're putting the raspberries. The final top cookie, the finishing touch, light dusting of icing sugar. And now you've got a beautiful, stacked, individual dessert. It showcases the chocolate shortbread that's so tender and delicate.